The add-parameter refactoring technique helps us make a method more flexible by including extra parameters. This technique comes in handy when we realize that our current method requires modifications, and we need to include more information or options to make those changes. By adding a parameter, we can provide the necessary data to alter or expand the method's behavior according to our specific requirements. Hello everyone, welcome again. In this lecture, we'll be focusing on the add-parameter technique. This technique falls under the method refactoring category in our refactoring diagram. Okay, when we talk about the add-parameter technique, we often think about add one or more parameters to a method based on new requirements. For instance, let's say we have a method that gives us a list of products as the output. But later on, we realize that we need to get the list of products from a specific category using the same method. To achieve this, we can add a parameter for the category. While this example illustrates one of the situations where we can apply the add parameter technique, the most important aspect of this technique is understand when to use fields or properties and when to use parameters. Let's explain this with an example. Let's take a look at the area calculator class. In this class, we have three methods for calculating the area of a circle, a square, and rectangle. There are also four properties and a field called pi, which we use to get the area of the desired shape. As you can see, instead of using parameters, we store the necessary information using fields and properties. However, this implementation has some drawbacks. For example, let's consider a scenario where we only need to calculate the area of a circle. In this case, the properties related to the rectangle and the square are not utilized. The other drawback is that if we want to calculate the area of multiple circles, we either need to create a new object for each circle or change the value of the radius property before each calculation. Whenever we have a method that relies on a field or property, but we realize that it would be more flexible if we could provide the value as a parameter, we can use the add parameter refactoring technique. This technique involves adding a parameter to the method and modifying its implementation to use the parameter instead of using the field or property. By removing the properties and adding parameters instead, our class becomes more flexible. Now, to calculate the area of a circle, we only need to pass the radius value to the method, and we no longer have any unnecessary properties. Additionally, to calculate the area of different circles, we don't need to create new objects or change property values anymore. Alright, it's important to remember that there are situations where using a parameter is better than using a field. For example, if a value is only needed within a specific method and doesn't need to be stored as a state in the class, it's better to use a parameter. This way, the value scope is limited to the method, and we avoid cluttering the class with unnecessary fields or properties. Similarly, if a value needs to be updated or changed frequently, using a parameter allows us to pass different values each time the method is called. This gives us flexibility and eliminates the need to modify a field every time the value changes. However, it's important to be cautious and use parameters only in special cases. If you find yourself needing many parameters for a method, it's likely that the method was placed in the wrong class and might need to be reconsidered. Alright, now let's see how we can use this technique step by step. The first step is to create a new method by copying the existing one and adding the required parameters to it. Next, we need to find all the places in our code where we're using the old method and replace those references with the new method. Make sure to pass the necessary parameters when calling the new method. Finally, we can remove the old method since we have replaced all its references with the new method. By following these steps, we can successfully apply the add parameter technique to make our methods more flexible and adaptable. Okay, done. See you soon.